I'll make sure to.
All right. Okay, we're live on Twitter.
Hello, Cognisphere. Let's get this thing out.
All right, I'm gonna post this in all the raid chats.
Gameon.
I don't know what it is, but little ass Aeon makes me laugh every time I see it or say it myself. It just makes me laugh, especially when I'm talking to Southern Fried Chad, who's just like not a little guy at all. Just makes me laugh when I say it to him. It's like...
That's funny.
All right. Let me send it to a few other places.
Does anyone know where that started?
I was going to ask you guys. I wanted to know. I feel like that's something Idea Hazard or Baproll.
I feel like there's a lot of things that I don't know where they started, but
I know we're getting to that point, aren't we?
Yeah.
Mike Flip the Stocks TikTok streams are incredible. Him dressed up as the professor. It's so funny, man. So funny.
It's too elite.
I hope he's enjoying time with his family. Mike, enjoy.
That's funny. He's still putting in
I know,
at least 3 hours a day, and he had to make an announcement about it.
Yeah, I saw that.
I've gone from 12 hours to 3 hours.
Oh, is that someone on Kick?
No, still messing up. I've reset the password and tried reconnecting it, but I just get an error every time. So
that's all right.
What up, Surge?
By the way, have you guys been following Hector's stuff?
Ayo cousin.
He might have the best IRL content.
He's the one. He's the one. He was doing the elevator stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love this.
So good. Him and Nick are really carrying the torch.
Yeah, he won the SPX IRL competition when we did that too. He posted, I think he went over to 1,000 cars and put little papers on the cars about SPX, and then just did a lot of that street shilling and bar shilling and all of that.
I mean, one of the things I also just enjoy about this is there's different types of content. So there's the more serious type of content, and we're having maybe the deeper but more philosophical discussions. But then there's people who are out there just having a blast, messing around, having fun, raiding in real life, and it's I don't know, it's just it's cool to see everyone taking a different spin on this.
Agreed. It's everyone's personality kind of comes out, and then they go narrowly into what it is that they feel that they're good at, and make whatever resonates with them.
Yeah,
and it's really cool to watch people finding their voice, as they.
I just found out. I assumed that Nick was from New Jersey. That's not a. That's that. I'm not. I don't say that in a derogatory way, but I guess he's not. I think he's from Delaware, and I actually go on our family vacation at the end of the month to Delaware, and I was talking to him last night, and I was like, "Oh man, I gotta meet up with this guy. I gotta get a video. I gotta get a video of him screaming SPX in a bar."
that pod was so good, and the Southern Fried Chad one, and I love guys like Nick who have range. It's I can be at a bar and I can scream SPX, and I'm just having a good time being young with my friends, but also I can sit down and talk for an hour at length about my journey and what this means to me. I think it's badass.
That was actually when I knew he wasn't from New Jersey. After watching that, I was like, "Oh, this guy, this is a Jersey activity." Nice. So how are we looking, guys? Piling in. Got a couple hundy.
Yeah, we'll give it a few minutes before we get officially started. Give people time to join.
So Cal, you're almost ready to make the big move, right?
Yes, sir.
That's exciting.
Excited. Yeah, it's been it's been a hectic summer with that. Once I'm situated with the, this is Cal on low battery.
What's the move, Cal?
I am moving with the missus. We got a nice little house we're renting. It's gonna be great. I've been in like a state of transition for a long time.
Yeah,
so,
man, it's been a few months.
Yeah, it has. It's been even longer, to be honest. But
will you still be going to the city a bunch for work, or?
Yeah. I'll be there a good amount. Probably less than I was, but
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, next time you're there, when I'm there, Matt, we gotta pull
you.
you.
Yeah, you guys gotta let me know. We'll get together.
Of course, yeah. It's mandatory now.
It was so funny. We went to such a place, like such a New York City place, where the tables are just
It was so small,
right next to each other. We're just like sitting in there.
We were like basically eating lunch with like it was just basically fully the people to our left and our right were at our table. Like it was a shared experience.
I forgot that. I hadn't been to the city. I haven't eaten at a place like that in a few years. I forgot what it's like to smell someone else's lunch when you're eating yours. All right. Yeah, people are coming in here now. Nice. What about you, Tans? What have you been up to?
Funny enough, I actually did go to New York like a couple weeks ago, but just for like barely 2 days because my girlfriend is actually from there, so she was doing a couple errands. But I'm sure we'll go there again, and yeah, definitely like to.
Oh, dude. Yeah, we gotta plan that out.
We'll figure something out. We can go wherever.
We could wait till the fall so he has to wear a sweatshirt. Not saying we have to do that, but that's all right.
Actually, the funny thing is you say it's a rule to wear a hoodie, but I actually don't have any hoodies because where I'm at, it never gets cold. It's always the same temperature, in tropical weather. It's just always hot. So
yeah, I told Tans tonight there's a dress code, hoodies only on the stream. Oh, Tim to Kill's in here. Love that guy. All right. What about you, Matt? How you doing?
Just hanging out. I was for the last couple episodes, I was up on vacation at the beach with the family for a couple weeks. And yeah, kids loved it. It was a blast. And they're at the age now where like they're really starting to understand like what vacation means. So they get excited. They see their cousins. But we're back now and just getting ready for school in the fall and kind of hanging out and taking it slow.
I feel like it's going to be here so quick. August is always just like done.
I know. And we got a bit, it always ramps up September, October, November. Like I feel like my wife and I are already talking about December.
Right. Like planning Christmas presents.
Exactly.
How are we looking here? Nice. Got 1400.
Yes. Give it like 2 more minutes. We'll get started.
Medic sommelier.
So apparently, Memetic sommelier. Apparently, Reuters is forecasting a massive supply crunch on SPX in Q4. Big if true.
Big if true.
Maximalist has been tweeting some bangers recently. Did
you see Trump announce something? I didn't look into it too much, right? About crypto and 401ks?
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Super cool.
Kind of an inevitability. I'm not surprised.
Yep. It's about time.
I mean, basically, it's just like every day, every other day, there's just like the SEC or the administration just conceding to the fact that like, yeah, I guess we have to like say that like things are allowed now. It's kind of already happening, but
it's like
it's not like you can't buy it everywhere else. So
right.
At this point, like what you might as well make it as democratized and accessible as possible.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're hurting people.
Exactly. And you risk falling behind all those other things.
I saw a stat that BlackRock Bitcoin ETF was the most successful ETF launch in the history of Wall Street. That's insane. It's
By
kind
like
of
an order of
insane.
magnitude, I believe.
You know what we should talk about sometime is like the easiest ways to onboard people who aren't involved in crypto. Because I've ran into problems so many times trying to onboard people. And it's just like such a hassle, you know. Actually, when I was in New York, I was trying to onboard some of my girlfriend's friends. And in New York, like a lot of these exchanges are blocked.
Yeah,
Dude,
I have a bunch
nightmare.
of friends that have had the same issue.
Nightmare in New York. Absolute nightmare.
Yeah, I it's tough, man, because it is genuinely, I think, kind of hard to someone who's actually like a beginner, in the sense that like they would prefer to use an exchange to custody, to explain to them like how to get on chain and how their wallet works and how to protect it, and like, you know, using a you know, a cold storage wallet or whatever. I find it kind of intimidates them, which is fair, and it intimidated me like before I really understood it. It helps a lot to have someone you trust kind of walk you through it, but
Yeah.
it does suck. It sucks that like not only are exchanges kind of like they kind of have like friction power, but also that there's like a fear, I think, because there's so many people hear stories about losing money, getting, you know, drainer links, all this kind of stuff, which is all real and everyone should be careful of, but it definitely scares off new people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you remember the first time sending your Bitcoin to Ledger? I do. Like, I didn't remember it.
Dude, it was
like, I didn't breathe. Like, and it was like 6 minutes. I was like, I think I might not make it. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
So
Everyone
imagine explaining
that
that to someone. Yeah, you know, like someone that has no idea what you're talking about. Nah, it is. And that's like the double-sided sword of these like centralized exchanges, right? Easy access,
Yeah.
but then you're going to keep it on there. They're going to use
Half of them too are called like cow swap or like pancake swap, whatever. If you're like trying to tell someone who doesn't know crypto and like they have serious money, they're like, you want me to put, you know, 100K into cow swap? And I'm like, yeah, but I understand why that sounds weird.
I thought you were kidding when you said try cow swap that day. I was like, wait, is this a joke? Like, is this a
Dude,
joke?
it's hilarious too. It moves. It moves when the swap is completed. It's just like, you know, certainly not institutional. I can tell you that.
That's funny.
It's great for me.
So you guys want to get started now?
Yeah, so I would like to do a little intro before we start. So first of all, this is going to be a really fun conversation because we have two people that are maximalists, two people that aren't maximalists, and I could promise you that this will not end with any of us screaming or yelling slurs at each other. And I think that is a huge problem in crypto Twitter today. There is a lack of adult discourse. You either talk to people you 100% agree with, or you block someone if you don't agree with them. And in crypto Twitter's defense, that's something that's really escalated over the last 5 years. I really think with COVID, when COVID pushed everyone into the internet, onto these social media platforms, it kind of hive-minded everyone. And the problem with that is you will not grow if you just talk to people you agree with. You will not sharpen your stance on anything. You will not learn anything if all you do is talk to people that 100% agree with your point 100% of the time. And life doesn't work like that. It's not black and white. There's a gray area, and that's where a lot's learned. So I just think this is going to be a fun topic, a very relevant topic. And it was a good Kickstarter yesterday when Tans rolled that grenade out there on the timeline to get this conversation going. Because again, I think meme coins actually solve this problem, because you are allowed to be an individual. You're allowed to have your own points of view, and it doesn't change the fact that you are all working together on a singular goal. And I think that is very important for society. We need to be able to have disagreements and conversations about things. That has been devoid from society for the last 5 years. And I think that's why you see a lot of the way things are going in society, because we don't have these conversations anymore. So I am just super excited for this conversation.
You know, a fun fact that I saw in my research, I'm not sure that a lot of people know this, but what I found is that Vitalik Buterin is actually the person who coined the term Bitcoin maximalism. And I think it was originally coined as somewhat of a derogatory term. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there because I found that interesting.
That's hilarious. It's kind of like conspiracy theory now, right?
Yeah.
Conspiracy theorists. Yeah, it was made as a derogatory term for anyone that questioned the JFK assassination, and now it's like everyone's a conspiracy theorist. Oh, that's cool.
So do we want to start on the maximalist side?
Yeah, I think we should.
I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
Okay. So there's a couple of thoughts I put together as we were just kind of witnessing the discourse that was happening on X, and then thinking about my own perspective and experience and how it feeds into this conversation. So starting this off, I want to talk about the importance of maximalism, because I think it's actually very important for basically any crypto asset success. So in the hierarchy of belief, maximalism is the strongest layer of the foundation. It's the deepest form of belief. And my general thesis is you want to hold coins that have both depth and breadth in belief. So the more maximalists, the better, because there's a correlation between maximalism and success. If you look deeper at the logical underpinnings of that, you'll find that there's actually not even just correlation, but like causation at a certain point on a breadth kind of depth matrix between how many maximalists you have and then how deep the belief structure is. And maximalists are the defenders of culture. They're the strongest protectors of value behind a coin. They're the last ones to leave, and they're hyper focused on its success. They're essentially all in. And when you think about this through, like, as a former venture investor and, you know, kind of early stage crypto investor, and through the venture lens, betting on founders that are all in has been a good strategy, because it creates a must-win scenario where they're going to fight for it with every ounce of their beings, and they believe in it so deeply that, like, no matter what challenges, problems, different challenges, problems, unexpected things arise, like, they're just going to be committed to fighting through that. And I also think there can be tremendous financial wisdom in maximalism when it shows up in the right asset for the right reasons. So what I mean by that is, I think you have to have a sober perspective as a crypto investor and recognize that the Bitcoin maximalists were by and large taking a very difficult and rare position to take, but it was kind of the winning path. And so the story you'll hear from the vast majority of people who got into crypto is they bought a certain amount of Bitcoin, they allocated away from it, and they ended up with less value in Bitcoin terms over time. So the maximalists here were onto something, and there's a deeper wisdom there. And then the question I ask myself is, like, what were they onto? And thinking about this question is actually one of the things that drove me to SPX in the first place, because I wanted to understand, like, what is the fabric or DNA of Bitcoin that made maximalism such a successful strategy there? And I wanted to try to understand that fabric and DNA and see if I could identify it in other assets. So it became essentially my view that the thing that will have the outcomes that resemble what Bitcoin did will have the DNA that is most similar to Bitcoin, but resembles an earlier time period for Bitcoin. In other words, like, this value is not fully realized yet the way it is for Bitcoin, which is just in a much later stage of maturity. And so when you find the things that have crazy diamond-handedness, owner loyalty, it's growing like Bitcoin did at earlier times in its trajectory, because it taps into some latent but timeless feeling like the system is not working for a new generation. This is actually, like, the concept I'm a maximalist on, as opposed to being like a blind maximalist behind some particular coin. So I'm a maximalist at this, like, sort of Bitcoin DNA layer, as opposed to a named asset itself. And when I find things that have that Bitcoin, that tie to the early Bitcoin DNA, it makes sense for me to be a maximalist in it based on what I've learned from and seen in the past with Bitcoin. So like, I'm not going to make this mistake that I think many people will make. And I'm also a maximalist on this concept because I see it in SPX, and I think that is incredibly special and rare. And I want to protect that. Like, it is very, very important to me to be a protector of that, because it is something that is so rare and happens so infrequently that when it does happen, like, you have to sort of cherish it. The final thing I'll say about maximalism in general is, I think there can, one of the things we've seen on the timeline and talked about is like, there can be toxic maximalism. And I generally think this sucks, because maximalists can play defense and offense at the same time with the right approach. So toxic maximalism is purely defensive. It's kind of like, I see it manifesting in examples where like people will get mad at other people for not seeing the world the same way as they do. And I think educational maximalism, as opposed to toxic maximalism, is playing both offense and defense. Like, you can educate people on what you see and the wisdom that you think you have, while not discouraging them or making them feel bad about having a different perspective and turning them off to the culture. But I think like through this educational maximalist approach, you can be someone who is really like genuinely trying to educate people on why you're a maximalist in the first place. So like one of the ways I think about this, you see similar analogies in like religious contexts. Like, think about this, like a Buddhist monk. They have extremely deep belief in their practice, such that they've been willing to commit their life to this practice. They try to teach the practice, they educate, but they know they can't force people to choose the same path as them. So they just show them the wisdom and the rationale and the path that they chose, and they welcome people in, but they recognize that people have the freedom to choose their own path. So I think this like educational maximalism is a much better approach than like this more defensive maximalism, because you're protecting the culture while simultaneously inviting people in. And to be honest, if we ever want to do something even remotely close to what Bitcoin did, we have to balance those two objectives simultaneously. So
one thing I'll add is that I think people conventionally think of maximalism as like, oh, this just means that my coin is the best. But I think it goes deeper than that. Like, when we think back to Bitcoin maximalism, like, you have to think about the reasons why it emerged in the first place. And I think some of those reasons are that the other coins that were emerging were essentially scams. They were a large percentage of the supply was held by teams that were just going to dump on you. They weren't organically distributed. They weren't bottoms up. So I think it's almost like this immunosystem response where maximalism kind of just becomes a survival strategy, so that you can avoid like all the schemes and all the pump and dumps that are occurring all around you. And I think it does provide a margin of safety to subscribe to that ideology.
Yeah, I think I think you make a really good point, Matt, about the types of maximalists. I agree. There are toxic maximalists, and there are toxic maximalists in all the best communities. I think the best ones have like a very, very small percentage because they're self-correcting, but it happens, right? And some people, kind of, I think, use that like phrase and or line of thinking for the wrong reasons. But I like to think of like maximalism as like there's like a gamut of human personality types. And all the way on one end is the people that Murad tweets about that like hold a pump fund coin for 6 seconds, then they go to the next one. And that's like a very special type of person I can't relate to at all. And then there's like extreme mega maximalist, like BTC person who, like we've talked about in the DMs, will never ever consider another coin as even like recognizable. It's Bitcoin or complete trash, right? I think that is like the full spectrum of potential participants. And, I've always just frankly been someone who has kind of believed that, you know, these coins have the ability to kind of speak to you at like a very kind of personal and psychological level. And I still believe that. And, you know, for that reason, that's why I've always held multiple coins, because I feel like someone who, you know, I have a lot of different kind of types, you know, of moods that I get into and personality types. And, you know, I've only refined what coins I feel have the ability to speak to me at that level over time. I hold 4 coins. I only talk about 4 coins. Of those 4 coins, I really only proactively talk about 2 a lot, but all of them kind of mean something slightly different to me, and they speak to me in different ways. With that being said, like, I personally, when Blue Apu started like the Unite the Memes campaign, I liked the premise behind that a lot. I think I'm a romantic. I kind of live in like a fairy tale like mindset sometimes, where I'm thinking like, oh yeah, you know, everybody's gonna get along and everyone's gonna, you know, everyone's kind of wag me mentality a little bit. Like that's my natural state of affairs. And you know, I remember I changed my PFP to a Sproto. And I had been like my little pink cow for like the entirety of my, you know, whatever, my this account's career, I guess. And it off-put a lot of Aeons who, you know, I had been talking about ticker Bitcoin a long time, but I think they saw it as like, you know, me trying to use, you know, SPX kind of, I don't want to say clout, but like kind of social implications to go to, you know, a smaller market cap coin, which of course was not my intention, nor can like I move a market for a coin that large. But, you know, at first, to be honest, like it was kind of off-putting to me. So I was like, it was not my intention. And, you know, it's just kind of weird because I try to be really, really thoughtful about like not doing that in like my personal brand and encouraging others not to do that and to be thoughtful about that stuff. But then I realized like this is actually really bullish and it's an important discussion. And it also shows that SPX has become a lot more than it used to be, right? It's attracting more and more people that, you know, frankly, do not even consider the idea of talking about something else as acceptable. And, you know, I started to realize like that's actually really fucking bullish. And the percentage of people, like, I like to think about Mike Flip the Stock as like the you know, idealist Eon, in my opinion. Like, you know, as someone who's very kind, very respectful, has a line, hey, if you're gonna, you know, maybe show something that I don't want to see or whatever, eventually I'll block you or whatever. But I'm a very nice person. You know, I see that as somewhat idyllic, and so I think that maximalism has kind of evolved a lot in the last 6 months. I don't think there were as many quote unquote maximalists like 6 months ago, 12 months ago, or maybe they were just the noise to signal ratio is way different. I see it as a really good thing as long as people are being healthy about it and respectful to other people about it. And I think that's my big thing, is making sure that you know, we're just being welcoming generally to new participants. And if people veer off the course from, you know, having a healthy dialogue about something, then I think we can feel welcome to reprimand them. But sorry, that was a bit of a brain dump, but that's kind of how I see all of this stuff, which I know is slightly different than you all.
You know, adding on to your point where you say that you see a lot more maximalists now than you did see like 6 to 12 months ago, I think that's related to the fact that I think there's 2 paths to maximalism. One of them is like you get involved in a coin really early, you haven't dabbled in many other things, and you really buy into the ideology and you just stick with it. The other one comes from, I think, dabbling in just a bunch of different things and getting burned a lot and then getting into something new, and you see it behave differently than everything else. And I think that's what inspires people to become more of a maximalist. And obviously, like, in the last 6 to 12 months, we've really seen some coins pull away from others. And I think that has kind of reinforced the belief in a lot of people's mind that, like, yeah, maximalism is the right direction to go in.
No, I think that's a good point. And yeah, I guess I'm on the non-maximalist side in the sense of I own 5 coins. Again, 93%. I did the math before we got on here. Is in 3 large cap coins that I love, and I agree, Cal. It is very interesting when you post something about one of these few coins you hold, and the other ones get angry. It's at first you're like, hey man, like what's that about? But then you look at it and it is bullish, and I think it would be crazy to say that maximalists aren't important in the sense of it is maximalists that made Bitcoin, right? If all of those Bitcoin early adopters were participating in all these other altcoins, it would have never worked. It just wouldn't have worked, right? That was the whole thing. That is what made Bitcoin. Bitcoin was that holder base was maximalist, period. That was it. And I remember coming across them in like 2019, even 2020, like after like everything crashed, and like listening to like the Pomp podcast, and it didn't matter. It didn't, the price was down to $4,000 a coin, down from like 60K, and didn't seem like anything was changing. Like the message was still the same. And I think that if you want a meme coin to work, you need that. You cannot build a base of holders that have a portfolio of coins that are trading coins. I think the other thing that happens too is people mess up where they mix in conviction plays with these short-term plays, right? And they keep them in the same wallet. And, they'll have something like SPX in a wallet with seven other coins that are sub 1 million, sub 10 million. And the next thing you know, like SPX is not moving 100% in the day, and they sell a little. I'm going to sell this to catch this move. And that has never worked in my experience. I've never won doing something like that. And like Tan said, I think that's how you learn. You transition at, you try to swap a conviction play to chase green candles. And that is not how any successful investor has made money across any market, right? Like, you think Warren Buffett was selling shares of Bank of America to go buy a biotech stock? You know what I mean? That's not right. You build conviction in a position and you hold it. And so I do think that part's important. But I will say one thing that I have found for myself, like talking to these other communities, is I have definitely got people to buy SPX just by interacting with other communities. You know what I'm saying? Just explaining the vision on a space, for example. And I think there is some benefit to that because people just need to learn too, right? And this space is so conditioned by the trenches, right? Where it's like 3-4x, you're out. I'm willing to put in this work for 2 weeks. But what they don't realize, or what they learn, is even if you hit one like that, right, the chances of you losing that money are just as almost 100%, right? Because it's just a game of numbers. So I find like going to talk to these other communities, right? Like Cal and I do on Crypto Compass, you get to talk about, you get to explain why it is different, why SPX is different. And I just think there's benefit to that, right? Because on the outside, if all you see is like the girl is cute and little ass on, like you get to explain things more in depth, right? Like Matt was just talking about, like the DNA of a coin. And I think that's important. That's because that is what makes a coin, right? Everything's top down in the sense of the community. Like if the guys at the top are toxic, the community is going to be toxic. And SPX is unique in that sense where, you have a guy like Murat at the top, but then you have what he's done is he's made an entire community that moves like that, right? Like there is very little hostility in that sense, right? Very little toxic behavior on the timeline. And I think that plays a part, that really helps.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tens.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight a comment here that I think is appropriate for the conversation. No Lose Only Juice says it's also too tiring to delve into so many different coins, which I think is definitely true. And one way that I like to think about it is, let's say you're really deeply involved in trying to promote your coins, and let's say you have a $10,000 position in one coin and you have $1,000 position in another. And let's say like the people that are following you only have $1,000 to invest. Ultimately, you should want that $1,000 on the side to go into your biggest position. And if you're promoting the other ones, you're like actively taking away that capital that could go into the position that you really want to rise. So yeah, that's what I'll say about that.
Yeah, I've thought about that a lot myself. Like, I'm like, okay, like if I actually really want to affect change, then I need to walk the walk. So if I have spare cash that I'm gonna, put into the market, I want to put it into the thing that I believe in most. Otherwise, I feel like I'm like doing a disservice, So I've personally like thought about that myself.
Yeah, I think you said this earlier, Manj. It's true, and it's really important. Like, a coin needs maximalists to succeed. You can't not. If you have no maximalists, it's just mercenaries, right? And what happens when the next big thing drops and it has a better, like you said, this one's not moving, this one looks like it's moving, and these people in this group chat are saying this is the one, and whatever, right? It's almost like sirens, in the ancient Greek lore. There's always like a new attractive thing to chase, and that will be the truth in perpetuity, because that's what crypto is, right? And so maximalists are a prerequisite for success, number one. And number two, like you said, Tans, like as time has gone on, I was thinking about this the other day, for people who weren't here maybe last year at this time, there was so much noise and so many more like daily runners, one could say, that it was really difficult. Like, maximalists were losing, put it that way, right? Just like at a point, Bitcoin maximalists were losing, and maybe the term was derogatory, and programmable money and being able to do things on the chain that's built was more important than a potential store of value or security and these other things, right? And it was hard. It was hard to be a maximalist at that time. But as time went on, and as the market matured, and as people started to have to kind of choose teams because there's so much saturation. This is something Griff says that I think is like a good, it's useful like terminology, but it's like there's a lot of A players, and the A players choose the A teams to support, and then the free agents eventually are forced to choose a team because they can't just bounce from team to team to team because they get weaker and weaker in a euthanasia coaster. So my point is, you need maximalists to succeed. And it makes sense that over time, the best coins actually start to attract more and more maximalists, because it becomes easier to, join a group of people that are all maximalists and working harder and harder to achieve a goal than it is to try to start your own maximalism, right? Or to be one or three voices or whatever, as opposed to 5,000, 200,000 in SPX's case. And so I think that's not to be understated. It's difficult to attract maximalists, and over time, game theoretically, if the number of maximalists in your coin is growing, especially on a per capita basis, it should only increase. You should be able to attract more maximalists because more people have more time in a waterfall effect to dedicate to something. And as the comment mentioned earlier, it's fucking hard to be in 5, 10, 30, 50 coins at once. Like, there's so many group chats. There's too much stuff going on.
Yeah, couple points that I'll add is one. I think the only differentiator between the trenches and like the big leagues are actually coins that have maximalists, because the trenches are what they are precisely because there are no maximalists there. They're only traders, and that's why they end up like they do, and they never go past a certain level. The second point that I'll add is, after the ICO era, I had, dabbled in a lot of coins in like 2016, 2017. And for a while, like you're making money on everything. So you're like, well, this is great. And then the bear market starts, and you see like all of these coins go to pretty much nothing. And that's that's one of the things that pushed me towards Bitcoin maximalism after 2017. And I remember thinking during one of the bear markets, like I don't know if Bitcoin is going to work out because there's so many of these other coins launching, and it seems like everybody's like supporting a different coin. And so I think when I look back at it, I kind of had a flawed thinking model in that I was thinking that like everybody had to be a maximalist, when the truth is that there only needs to be a critical mass of maximalists in order to like achieve the goals that you want. So I think like both parties can work together. There definitely needs to be that section of like hardcore maximalists, and then it's also cool to have more casual people as well.
Yeah, I think about it like a company in some ways, or like a religion or what have you. Like you're going to have a spectrum of belief, but you need a few, at least especially in a decentralized network that is built on trust. Like I've said a couple of times on X, like I view what we're trying to build here as a next generation trust machine, similar to what Bitcoin did one generation ago. And in order to do that, you need, to Tanz's point, a critical mass of people essentially playing the like hardcore role and maintaining the hardcore mentality of a founder, where like you at a company where the founder is all in on that thing. They're not going to, if things get tough, they're not going to leave the company. Some employees are going to leave the company, but they're just going to like kind of stick to their mission and keep going. And I think, some people are going to want to play that role and others aren't. And I think like, that's okay, so long as there's critical mass. But I think for me, it's easier to decide to be a maximalist because I'm very intentional about wanting SPX to be this generational trust machine. And the only way that I feel I can do a service to the network is to act that way and play that role myself.
Right. And, the most successful founders understand the importance of focus. If you're dividing your focus in other places, then those actions that you're making are going to be accretive to other areas instead of, the area that you might want it most.
That's a good point. And it's almost like the locker room of a sports team, right? Like that you need those guys that are going to keep it in order. Like if you don't have those guys in that locker room, the team just becomes a losing team because there's no guidance. There's no, like you said, there's no one that's going to be at that practice early and late every day, no matter what. Like those are the guys that make the locker room. And that is the maximalists and meme coins for sure. Like they're going to be here. A lot of them were here the earliest, right? In these coins. But if not, they became maximalists and they're going to be here longer than the average person. So if you don't have them, it's just not going to work. Like that's one argument that you can't really make. Like you have to have a good chunk of maximalists in a coin for it, just because the way the price moves and the attention and like, look at all these launch pads, there's always going to be something shiny. Kind of like I talked about with the Rat Park experiment. Like we could all go drink the morphine water right now, right? But we don't, because we know what we've had here. And the reason that you know what you have here is because you put the time in. You've been here, you've interacted. So I definitely think that I wouldn't be surprised to see maximalism get stronger over the next 6 months in that sense, while these launch pads just PvP each other to zero, right? And I think I can't see retail coming in buying a portfolio of meme coins, right? They're going to buy what whoever onboarded them tells them to buy, right? So like, I just don't see it being like retail comes in and owns 5 to 10 coins. Like they're probably just going to own that one coin, right? And that just makes sense to me.
Yeah. The other thing that I would say is for the reasons that I mentioned, I'm more of a maximalist, from, I think, like a protecting and potentially trying to build what I believe we should be building perspective, but also like a financial perspective, looking at the history of Bitcoin. But at the same time, I'm also like a subculture and innovation maximalist. Like, I think all these other communities should have the same opportunity to attempt to do something similar to what SPX or Bitcoin did, and to try to do it in their own way. And so, like, the adage of like, I pray for your success, like, I will like other communities' things. Like, I will like support other communities. And I think it's fantastic that they believe in those things and go for those things. I have just personally made the choice to like essentially not go there with them, you know?
I'm glad you just said that. So, because I wanted to touch on that when we brought up Unite the Memes before. I think one thing that was completely misunderstood about Unite the Memes was like, everyone has to buy everyone else's coins. To me, that was never what Unite the Memes was. What Unite the Memes was to me is good communities should support other good communities, but just by throwing a like you said, or just not saying this is a trash coin compared to mine. Because in the end of the day, if those communities are good communities, which like Unite the Memes was talking about good communities, you in the end, you still want retail. If they're not going to buy SPX, you want them in something like that you know is not going to go straight to zero overnight. Like, that is how we fix this. So to me, Unite the Memes was more about bringing all the good boats together and just changing the algorithm. Like, if the algorithm was a bunch of good coins as opposed to, this guy saying this is going to 1,000x, like, I just think it was better for the space, and yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Unite the Memes as a cooperation mechanism is a force multiplier for everything, in my opinion, even being a maximalist, because like, to me, this is not rocket science. This is like, okay, look at like primitive tribes or countries. Like, you don't have to go live in the country, but when the countries or the tribes learn to work together, to collaborate and coordinate, to kind of like collectively enhance whatever their own unique desired outcomes were, like, that was a beneficial thing. And these are human. Like, I think we obviously understand this. This is part of the thesis, and we talk about this a lot. But like, crypto, from my perspective, as a technology, its most powerful facet, it is a human coordination network. And the tokens and ideologies and technologies, or whatever it is, that are most effective in tapping into and coordinating the most humans in the most like sustainable ways with longevity, and they win. So like, for me, like, even though I'm a maximalist when it comes to where do I want to put my dollars and where do I want to spend my time and effort from like a protection perspective, I think Unite the Memes as a coordination and collaboration theme is a great thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. For what it's worth, I think healthy, quote unquote, uniting of the memes, and even if you are a maximalist of one coin, like you said, Matt, there's kind of like, there's toxic variants of that, and then there's supportive variants of that. You can be a maximalist of a coin and still be, I guess, respectful or acknowledging that like other people have other ambitions, assuming they've been around for a long time, and it's, this is not like something that is exploitative or predatory in any way. I think I totally agree with you on the coordination vehicle stuff. I've been working for like crypto protocols or chains or what have you for almost 2 years now. My background was like more kind of like B2B SaaS or AI companies. And so it was like definitely a big shift for me, because it's very different. But that's the realization I think you come to when you spend enough time, in the world of crypto. It's ultimately just like it's a social game and it's a social market, because it is the ultimate coordination vehicle. And it is an opportunity for people to congregate around an idea that with, aligned financial incentives, which is probably the most powerful alignment vehicle that exists. It already happens. It actually already happens in regular markets. It's just that the majority of, all things that happen in regular markets are, either private or kind of early stage and are not accessible and or visible to most people. And so that's the beauty of, and that's why I've always thought about, like, I guess memes as like, they're all startups, right? And that's why I really like the founder analogy. If these are all social groups and they're all startups that are attracting similar minded people, then, I think it's easy to look at SPX as the kind of escape vehicle that has already kind of amassed clearly some form of critical mass and sustained critical mass of smart people who want to change the world and have decided over a period of time that this is how they're going to do it. And I think that's really powerful. I think it's something that is going to attract more like-minded people. And there's a Matthew effect to this stuff. It's reflexive. If you've already done a good job at attracting a certain amount of people that have that mindset over a time period, then the odds are higher that you're going to attract more people faster, that have that mindset. And so I think that's not to be overstated. And it's why time is so important in the maximalism as well. Once it's cemented, that's why I really liked your post yesterday, Tans. Once it's cemented in you, like the people who have been in SPX for 2 years are not going anywhere. Like they're not. They're dedicated to the mission. And there's been enough sirens, like they've proven the test of time. And that's not to be understated.
I think for many of them, to be honest, and this is my own experience as well, there's no alternative. Like we must do this.
Exactly.
There's no alternative. And so that like also is something that reinforces my own maximalism, But
that is coordination at its core, right? It's like you see that and it makes you not only more bullish, but have a higher predisposition to be a maximalist, as it will future participants, and it snowballs, right, in the right direction, which I think is amazing. And that's why you do need maximalists, because if you don't have that as a foundation, then it's, as you said, Tans, it's all mercenaries, right?
Yeah, I think it's important to be introspective about your own personal presence as well. Like before I had the account that I'm on now, I had a different account and I would talk about a few coins. And ever since I've, made my Aeon account, I've only spoken about SPX, even though I still have those other positions. And for me, I do feel like a level of responsibility, having built up like my entire following through the SPX community, that if I started talking about other things, that I would be doing a disservice to them and I would be losing that trust. So I take that very seriously. And that's, a big reason why I haven't spoken about any other coins.
And that's definitely something that we're watching, people that, have the magnet in their handle and they're using it maliciously on purpose, and
yeah,
that stinks. It's a decentralized market. Can't stop that. You know what I'm saying? Nothing you could do about that. But I would say I always look at myself as how am I representing myself? Like how would someone interpret what I'm doing, my actions? That's why you'll never see me talk bad about another coin or be nasty to someone, because I just don't think I need to. I come here with real genuine intentions. And that's just like, people just have to think about like how, what are your actions? Are you going out there saying, this coin sucks, it's going to zero? Because I don't know if that helps anyone. You know what I'm saying? Like that's that toxic maximalism that doesn't help anyone. Or you could just say, hey, praying for your success, but you should look into SPX. It all depends on how you approach this. But I do find value in the unite the memes mindset, in the sense that was a great analogy, Matt. It's like one guy gets the vegetables, the other guy gets the meat, like in the end, everyone eats. And I think that's important. And I've found success in getting people to either look at SPX differently, right? I can't tell you how many times I've been on a stream and, they're like, well, explain SPX then. And then I explain it and they go, oh, well, that makes more sense, But if I was just one of the, if I was toxic about talking about it, I wouldn't even be on there in the first place. So I think you definitely need a mix, right? You need a ton of maximalists, but it's not a negative to have holders that hold a few coins and they go out and they represent the community the right way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I want to be clear that I have immense respect for a lot of the communities out there who have been building for a long period of time. I mean, we're all basically trying to do the same thing with a different vehicle, right? So there's a sense of camaraderie there, and I respect a lot of the guys in other communities. The part that I don't respect, obviously, which I'm glad Murad makes a delineation between the two, is the trenches with the new launches and trying to claim that you're a cult community like after a couple weeks or
3 weeks in.
a couple months. And so yeah, I mean, I support other hardcore communities.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I really like the term that was used on the Nick on Southern Fried Chad podcast, which was PVS, player versus scam. Like that's how I feel.
I like that.
I agree with you full-heartedly, Tams. Like if people who have been working on something, I saw who did I see up here? Tim to Kill. Tim's number one, the man, and number two, like for instance, there are a lot of Apu maxis. There are a lot of Giga maxis. Like there are a lot of Ticker Bitcoin maxis. Like I respect those people who have been, they haven't changed their PFP. They haven't they've been working on the same thing for a year, 2 years, 100%. I want to see those people win, and I like being a part of those things with them. If that taps a different part of my brain, all of them, I feel kind of various degrees of passion for them, but that's anyone who's been working on something for a long period of time and again has their own vehicle to accomplish a similar goal. I'm all for it. But the test of time is very important. It's not to be understated. And I agree, Tans, and I respect that a lot about you and a lot of people in the SPX community in general, that there is kind of an allegiance and a responsibility to, what that stands for. And, the overall kind of brand that we have. There are going to be more people in the future, Manj, like you said, that are going to use, and it already has happened a ton of times. They're going to use an Aeon PFP or magnet plus stock emoji to kind of vamp the original SPX idea or holders. That's probably only going to accelerate. But I think that having the core time-tested believers set the example is extremely important, and that goes for every community.
And what's wild is there will be people that take offense to what you just said, and it's because they know. You just said a very general statement, right? But if that statement irritates you right now, then there's a good chance that's what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, but man, we didn't even get to yell at each other, curse, or say bad things. Wow, crazy how that works, right? This was good. This is a great conversation. I'm glad we had this. I think there's a lot to take away from this. This is a nuanced space, and in the end of the day, you are accountable for how you carry yourself, what you do, the way you move, and maximalism is important. If you're not a maximalist, it doesn't make you wrong, but you focus on how you move. How do you carry yourself? How do you represent the community? That I think that is always been the biggest takeaway for me is, how do you represent the community? Do you think you do a good job? Do you think that what you do is good or bad for the community? And for me, I think if I analyze the way, I think it's good. I think I'm a positive, and that's just, you have to hold yourself accountable. I think that's important.
Yeah. I want to say one other thing. To a certain extent, I try to think about this very algorithmically, and how in terms of how I weight my time, effort, which coins I go around. I don't mean algorithmically I'm writing code. I mean algorithmically in my head. And the way I see the market today, the biggest opportunity in the market where there is the biggest void and gap is in basically rebuilding a very, very deep trust in an asset that people can come to, coalesce around, and use to escape their circumstances. And so that is something I value. It is the biggest void and the biggest opportunity I see in the market today. And when I look at something like SPX from a probabilistic standpoint, I think probabilistically, based on where it's at and the DNA that I see, it has the highest chance of actually getting there. And so that is where I algorithmically weight and devote my effort, because that is something I value. Whether you're a maximalist or not, I think it is important to sort of tie back where you are focusing and what you are doing to whatever it is you value. So you might value a subculture community that exists within one of these other coins. That's great. Who am I to tell you what your values are? But I think like being kind of explicit and thinking very like intentionally and trying objectively about where are you spending your focus and how does it tie back to the things that you personally value is like an important exercise to go through.
Another thing to chew on is that maximalism is orders of magnitude more important for a meme coin than it is for a centralized utility coin. Because with these utility coins that have teams, you can essentially just rely on, the tech being valued at some certain amount that's going to attract capital, or, the team doing certain things to raise the market cap of that token. Whereas when you're in a decentralized movement coin, then the only thing that you have to rely on are the other people within your community. So I think like each action that you take, whether it be positive for that community or negative for that community, is either a vote for its success or a vote for its failure. And these things end up stacking up. And so I think it's really important to be cognizant of that.
Well said.
Yeah, I second that, first of all, both what you said, Tanz and Matt. And I just want to say, like, these things have really big total addressable markets, which is awesome. But at the same time, you're going to attract like a really wide array of people. The community is going to change. The culture is going to, if you're growing, it's going to change. The culture is going to change slightly. It's going to expand. There will be more platforms. There will be more voices that we haven't even heard yet. I think that number one, it's really important, and Aeon's doing an amazing job about, doing this, to lead with respect, lead with kindness, lead with, an expectation of good intent until proven otherwise. And number two, to do what resonates with you and your values. Ultimately, and I've talked about this a lot, and this is how I see this, unless you find that you really resonate with something, when things get ugly, the odds that you sell are really high, in my experience. And so it has to speak to you. It has to be big enough to you and to your being that it matters what you say and what you do. And so I totally agree with you, Tanz. Like be very, no matter how big your account is, be very wary of your actions and how they represent the community and yourself. Like no matter how big your account is, no matter what platform it's on, you don't know who's seeing it and how it's being inferred. And so I think it's really important to lead with like respect, kindness, all that kind of stuff, because it's all cumulatively what the product is. So
the last thing that I'll add is to be clear, speaking to the audience, is to be clear on what you want to get out of this space. Because, if you're going in the trenches and you're just rotating coins and you want to be a trader, that's fine. But you're probably not going to make good friendships. You're not going to build certain skills that it takes to grow a community, and you're not going to build that same kind of mindset that you can apply to other areas of your life by just like sticking with something and seeing it through.
That's a great point. What are you actually taking away? Even if, let's just say you go net, right? You don't lose money, you don't make money. What did the trenches do for you? What did it do to the quality of your life? What life skills did you take away from that? Like I can tell you right now, I've learned. I mean, I've learned a bunch of things from this. I've definitely my public speaking got a lot better from building communities. I mean, Cal saw how bad I was on CapCut in the beginning. Like I've learned a bunch of things. I'm on different phone calls, like doing business things, and that all came from trying to build community. You know, trying to build something. And the people that I know in the trenches, all they've gotten is a terrible dopamine addiction. You know, they're on their phone 16 hours a day, completely absent from their life, which is, yeah, no, that's a great point, Tense. That is take the money away. What is it that you take away from the trenches?
Dude, I love that thought experiment. Like, imagine if you just ended out this cycle with having not made any money, but having not lost any money either. Would you consider like all the time you spent as a net negative or a net positive?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one, man. That's a great one. Man, yeah. And I would say net positive. I've been having a ton of fun. Happen to make some money too, but had a ton of fun while I'm doing it.
The ironic thing is, like, the more fun you're having and the more you're enjoying the people around you, the higher probability that you are making money.
I think that's so true. Like, you gotta love it. You gotta love it.
Exactly. And it's just, all it is, you know, this is how I've navigated this entire cycle. It's worked really well for me. Like, you are a prospective future actor. Like, the people that you are interacting with, the experience that you're having is probably very similar, especially in the earlier stages before you know any lore. I think people overestimate things like lore, like, quite a bit. For instance, if you're a new person who comes into the space tomorrow and makes a Twitter account, is trying to figure out what the fuck is going on, sorry for my French, you know, what are you going to be attracted to, right? Where are you going to spend your time if you're a normal person? And I personally felt dirty every time that I was like kind of hanging out in trench world, because it is a Vegas table. And, you know, naturally I gravitated away from that. And so my line of thinking was like, other people are not going to want this either. It's insane. You can't talk to a normal person about it. And so, yeah, so I think it's that's why, like, the EQ over IQ, or like the having fun stuff, actually makes you more money this cycle. Because, like you said, Matt, it's a coordination game. Where are people going to go? That's the job we have to figure out.
And what lore really is, is it's tales of people building deeper bonds. And so, like, when Spacey talks about the 33-hour sleepover, like, live stream they had, this is an example of them building deeper bonds. When Idea Hazard got on and did his, like, however many beach sessions for hours on end, that's stories of people building deeper bonds. When the project was about to fail and a couple of them went to eat Denver, and they went out and pitched, everyone under the sun at the conference on why this was, so special. These are all stories of people building deeper bonds. And it's through those experiences, and it's through the lore that things start to become special and more meaningful. And, like, you're not just sitting in front of a screen clicking away. Like, you're actually living life. Like, these are stories of people living their lives and having fun and doing crazy, wild things that they believe in. And I think that, that's awesome.
Yeah, you really have to experience it firsthand and get involved in the community. Because, like, as an outsider, you kind of see Murad talk about the need for belonging and what we're talking about right now, and you kind of discount it. But then if you actually get involved in the communities and you start contributing, you see that you can really build amazing friendships like we all have on this show. And, this is still the early stages also. Like, these kind of online relationships will likely develop further into in-person relationships. And here in this small niche, like, if you go outside right now, it's going to be hard to find things that you have in common with the average person on the street. But if you do it in this space, then you're gonna share a lot of things in common. So yeah, definitely recommend people to, like, involve themselves and really, like, humanize the other people within the community.
Yeah, some things in life you cannot understand by observation, but rather participation. And SPX is one of them.
Your network's your net worth, right? If this is a social game, then it's can't be any truer than here.
And that's literally what meme coins are in 1 second, right? Your network is your net worth, like literally.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think we're gonna wrap up now, but thanks everybody for joining. If you haven't checked us out on YouTube or Twitch or Kick, go follow us on there as well. Leave a comment, leave a like. We'd really appreciate that so that we can start growing on other platforms and reach people outside of crypto Twitter. So thanks, guys. Any final words?
Yeah, this was awesome. I'm upset I didn't get to yell at anyone, though. Would have been fun. This is great. I appreciate you guys. And also go check out Southern Fried Chad's podcast. It's on YouTube. It's awesome. He interviews different Aeons and does a great job. He really does. Does a great job.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
This is a fun combo, guys. These are the kind of things that I think are important to talk about at the high level. Otherwise, it just ends up.
I think this is particularly interesting because there's a mix of views here, and so I think in previous conversations, like we're all saying things that we all agree with in slightly different ways, but here there's a real mix of views, and it was good.
I agree.
for
All
sure.
right. And TradFi is the only enemy. Remember.
Yes, sir. Well, we'll see you guys not next Thursday, but the Thursday after that for our next show. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll catch you in the Cognosphere.
Persist
Thanks,
forever.
Persist forever.